Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is about the evolution of consciousness and starting to understand ourselves as spiritual, energetic beings. And that is why I have my guest here tonight, Nyei Murez. She is a student and a practitioner of magical passes, the Castaneda work, which for me, Carlos Castaneda was one of the principal figures that helped me understand that there was more to reality than just this physical world. And I read all his books, and for me, they were true. They were a truth, and they are real, and the work is real, and the work is about shifting consciousness. So thank you, Nyei, for being here.
Thank you, Alan, for having me. Really happy to be here.
We'll get into the magical passes, but there is a lot of controversy about Castaneda, and I'm just curious because he is one person I always wanted to meet. And so, What was he like?
What was he like? He wrote about, because people ask him about Don Juan, what was Don Juan like? And ultimately, he said Don Juan was a collection of stories of awareness. So, what was he like?
Wait, does that mean Don Juan wasn't real?
Oh, not at all.
Don Juan was
just that we gather these stories in our lifetime, so we become this accumulation of awareness. And I'll tell you two ways. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Because laughter followed him everywhere. Anytime any of us would, me and other students of his, you could tell when somebody was talking to him because there'd be a lot of belly laughs. So he was filled with joy. And for me, it's present tense because I feel like he's still present in spirit with us, guiding us what we do. He's somebody that really lived fully what he taught and what he practiced. So he's fully in the moment. So anything that he did in the time that I was working with him, it's still resonating now.
Right, because that's what a real teacher does for you.
It's absolutely the case.
But it was full of laughter because nothing is serious?
Not that nothing is serious. It's just that really, if you are connected, we'll talk about with your essence, which in this tradition is called the energy body.
Right.
There's a joy about it, so we can find joy everywhere. And what we don't want to be so serious about, which he really conveyed, is our self, our person.
Right.
Our
dramas.
Our dramas, our judgments.
Yeah.
Our sense of being a victim. Somebody did it to me. So it's a great reminder that our journey is all about perception. So how do I tell the story?
Right.
How do I tell the story of my experience? And that's why we go back to Don Juan's A Collection of Stories. He's telling the story of the energetic facts of what happened, the perception of energy linked with the physical world. So if we get into he said this and she said this and this person was nice to me and this person wasn't, which we can every day if we don't make a decision to go somewhere else.
The somewhere else is the energy, you're saying?
The somewhere else is the energy. The somewhere is, literally, Florinda Donner Grau, one of Carlos's colleagues, would talk about, you can just say, lift up, because our energy will literally, you can see it, you'll have cords that will go down, and we're bottom feeding in terms of, or do we want to come up and really look at the gratitude and the miracle of everything that's happening? So for me, that can serve as a reminder when you hear somebody that's maybe you feel like missing the point. For me, it's like, okay, where am I missing the point right now? If that's in my energy field, it's a good it's a reminder.
You mean people who complain all the time, who worry, who you could you see their energy bodies just.
Well, Carlos would say in the luminous field, the energy body is a separate sphere, and then we've got a luminous electromagnetic field
around the physical body
that surrounds and goes through the physical body. And he would see cords. People, you have cords that should be up here, and you can the cords, and you can feel it. If you're kind of sagging, and then your body will go with that, and your breath. So the breath will stop, and this will go, and or do I want to inhabit this magnificent, intelligent form, breathe, and then I'm going to appreciate. Even if somebody's doing something I don't like, what is it teaching me?
I
What does it
like
bring
that, because
to
just
me?
as you said that, I feel like, that's the truth about magical passes. The tensegrity work is about lifting the field, right?
Lifting the field, enlivening the field. Is your field, bushy and bright, or is your field, and you can see it, it's what we embody, and that's what's so, for me, so that's why Carlos brought out these movements called magical passes, because at a given moment you would see, he would give lectures about his books and things like that, but Carol Teagues came along and said, you know what, we need to bring out the movements, because we need to really see, what are we embodying? What we do in this physical form, then there's an energetic aspect that happens with it. Is there flow, or are we stuck? In a physical sense, is the lymphatic system that cleans our blood, is it flow? If it is, our energy flows. If it's stuck, you know what, our energy's stuck and our perception's stuck, and we'll keep repeating, if John would just stop doing this, I would be fine. You see little kids, well, my sister, my brother, or can we mature and say, oh, you know what, we're dreamers, we affect our experience, and it starts just with how am I sitting, how am I breathing right now.
Well, when I met Florinda and Carol and Tasha at the workshop I did, they opened their lecture saying, I am dreaming this workshop.
Yes.
And so we're dreaming this.
We are.
And we could choose however way we want to be in this dream.
Yes.
We may not be able to affect what we think is the dream, but we could choose how we feel about the dream. And that will change the dream.
You nailed it for me, because you said how we feel about the dream.
It's feeling.
You didn't even just say how we think about it. You said how we feel about it.
Thinking doesn't mean anything.
Well, feeling is everything. And
It is.
Don Juan would talk about the world as a feeling. And he talks about seeing energy or perceiving energy, but you'd use the visual term seeing, and he'd say that's because our culture is so oriented toward the visual, but we feel energy. We feel, if I'm really tuned in, I'm conscious of do I have a sense of my feet? Am I breathing? Then I can sense how, I can close my eyes. First I'll sense, how do I feel? What's going on here? What's in my field? Then I can be much more present. What's in your field? What's in the room? And we know, there's a part of us that knows. Yeah. That perceives, that tunes in directly. And so it's about getting certain things out of the way and refining that. So the magical passes as movements and positions of body and breath that help us gather enough energy to have an option. Is it going to be complaint, or is it going to be appreciation in this moment?
I just saw Marina Abramovich. You know who she is? She's a performance artist, and she would just stare at people. The artist is present. She'd just stare and feel them. But she also did another piece where she had people come into a museum and put on headphones. Yes. And just walk around the space. They were the art piece themselves with headphones, feeling themselves.
How beautiful.
The headphones were silent, so they couldn't hear anything outside of themselves.
Wow.
Except themselves. And she talked about art of the future being about consciousness.
Oh, I'm so interested.
You should look her up. And this other thing that came to mind was when I was...
That's so connected with this.
Yeah. I was talking to Ken Wilber. You know Ken Wilber, the big spiritual philosopher. He says thinking is at the top of the list. And I said to him, don't you have to feel before you think? And he said to me, you may be right, but I can't think about it now. He said that. He said that to me. And the other thing that came up about what you said, the thing about thinking is what Castaneda gets into the later books is actually we're not doing that. We're being possessed by the flyers or the energy that we think is us that's thinking, and we're not the thinker. We are the feelers, but we've been convinced to think we're thinkers.
Well,
I
do.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really easy to make comments. For example, sometimes we think we're thinking and we're pointing out. We could go on forever. I think that this person is my problem, or I think that everybody should listen to me.
Right, right.
But what's going on? What is this person doing? What am I doing?
Right. You know what Eckhart Tolle says? You start thinking, oh, that person, she looks like my sister, and then my sister had a dog, and my
There
dog,
you
what
go.
happened to that dog?
That's it.
And he says you're like miles down the road with your dog, totally
And you're gone, and
yes.
you're not here, and you're not
Yeah.
feeling. And Don Juan would
Yes.
talk about, we have these chains of association.
Right.
Napkin, tablecloth, fork, punch bowl, fiesta,
Right.
And we're
totally
not really present.
Right.
We're not perceiving. Where's the sensory input on that?
And where's the feeling?
Where's the feeling?
So you're saying Don Juan, the magical passes, is all about feeling?
That is one way to describe it, and I think it's really accurate. It's about reawakening that direct connection with this incredible, intelligent perceiver. And Don Juan talks about, and Carlos Castaneda, and you can feel it when you're really connected. You can feel your heart, right? You can feel at the core. And I would say this thing called the assemblage point, where it's a feature on our energetic field. When it comes to the core, which usually we have to allow it, we can make the effort, but we also have to, you hear about get out of your own way. Examine what are my judgments that are in my way. Who do I think I am? What roles do I think I'm supposed to play? Who do I think that person is? Oh, high status, low status. Go in the room. Who's in charge? Instead of really feeling or perceiving.
I saw a great cartoon in the New Yorker magazine. You ever read New Yorker magazine? This guy is at a bar, and he's sort of drunk, and he's yelling at the bartender saying, "You have no idea who I think I am."
That's really great. I want that on my wall.
I'll send that to you.
I'm serious. It's really, so it's yeah.
But what about this idea that the thinking part of us is an artificial implant that has overshadowed the feeling part? That Castaneda talks about.
There's different ways to look at that, and I definitely, one of the things that becomes clear with my training, that the teacher would speak to the student where they were at the time or what they needed to hear. And Carlos was coming with a generation, and he's a male, and there's a lot of fear associated with going into the unknown and dealing with we talk about the inorganics and dreaming. And the culture, and you'll still see it if anybody's going to talk about supernatural stuff. On television, not to name any specific things, but a lot of times we want it to be creepy, or it's got to be associated with crime, or it's got to be, death and stuff like that. Well, the culture is catching up to where the awareness of human beings. There are human beings who have really recognized incredible perceptual, vistas, and then the culture is catching up. So Don Juan would describe to Carlos, there's these entities that are going to
attack you.
Eat your
he would
awareness
play
and take
on his
over
fear, though.
Exactly, and at the same time, energetically, we do look like something has munched us if we're busy focusing on the lowest
so
common
you're saying
denominator.
this example that he's saying was just a kind of, it wasn't so much real as it was to...
I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's where do you focus? Where do you put your focus? And so that was one way for him to show Carlos energetically, wake up. When we go down into this low space, energetically there's these, it's creepy. So let's come up, let's wake up and just be present. And the thing that helps us wake up, Don Juan would say, is discipline. And he'd say, I don't mean a cold shower at 5 every morning. And what I mean is appreciation, the art of feeling awe. Appreciating.
Is that the biggest
what is
teaching?
in your experience? I would say that's a very big part of it. I am responsible, like you said, for my experience of this, and if I have a sense of awe, it's a miracle that we're here talking. It's a miracle that we're in an upright, that we can be upright. It's a miracle that we can have chairs and still be conscious. I'm kidding, but
No, but that's Einstein's thing. Either everything is a miracle or nothing is. Right?
And look at Einstein.
Yeah.
He's got that feeling of awe. And because he's open, he can be Einstein and discover. And be an explorer in that.
So does the magical passes just get us back to awe? Does it just?
That is one thing, and of course, it's what do you intend to do with it, and you can set your intention, but that is part of the intent that these movements are imbued with, because they come from ancient times in their origin, and then they adapt.
Well, what are, so let's go into, what are, I mean, their movements. Would you want to talk about the luminous energetic body and what the movements do to all that?
Yeah, the movements, and one way to do it is to just show a little bit of movement.
Do you want to show, can you show some?
We could show something. We could do something that we can do actually
do
as we
chair?
are. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know what we're going to do? We'll do first. We're going to check your stance, because this is a stance also, even though we're not standing. You can do it with me if you want. And how am I sitting? What am I holding here? Do I have a connection with my sitting bones? Do I have a connection with my breath? Do I have my feet connected to the earth? Because the earth is feeding, even though we're on maybe the second floor, there's still energy coming from the earth. Do I connected with the sky, the stars? And then from there, I'm going to do something. We can do something from the recapitulation magical passes, where I'm going to come out and I'm tapping at the shoulders and then at the chest and the waist. And this is helping forge my connection with the energy body, and therefore the energy body, which is a separate sphere, totally out of energy. And so let's just feel it for a second. So there's one pass.
What did we just do, though?
We're focusing our energy. We're bringing, there's links with the energy body everywhere on our body.
The energy body is the cords of energy that come off of us? Is that the energy body?
The energy body is a separate body. Like you have your electromagnetic sphere.
I have my physical body.
You have your physical body, you have a sphere that surrounds it, and then there's a separate little, smaller, more compact.
That's attached to us at the back.
That's attached to us through the assemblage point. So you could say the back.
Or
in a way, these are, because it's ultra-dimensional.
Right.
So, but it attaches to us really at the heart. When you see all these traditions that talk about the heart as the gateway to everything.
So it's an energy body that's small, that attaches, that's part of us. That is us, maybe.
It is you.
It is us.
But it's the part of you that travels in dreams, when you daydream, when you suddenly feel like you feel that the chills coming, someone's talking about, that's your energy body telling you pay attention.
And so these movements do what to that energy body?
Well, this is forging the energy body on this one.
What does it mean, forging?
Giving it a shape.
Oh.
So it's setting the intention. Energy body for me, it won't be random. It'll be something that I'm deliberately connecting with. Okay. And so it helps you focus. And then some of it is the linear mind won't understand. If you want to we can over-explain. And it will.
But you'll feel it.
You'll feel it. So let's do I'll do a breath.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Okay.
We'll do this. And we'll do one more. And you can pause and just notice. Do you feel more focused?
I feel a little different.
You do?
I do.
Okay, and then this is forging the core. So that's where the energy body connects at the heart.
And this is just.
So you're opening a space for it to land.
Here.
Yeah, and you will see statues in Mexico. There's a little box, and there's a little man inside there.
Oh.
So that's like
the little man is the energy body.
You could say that's the energy body. It's not necessarily always little, but that's. Let's do a breath.
Okay, let's do a breath.
And you keep exhaling, because most of us have more air to exhale than we realize. This is called the wings of recapitulation. Now we're going to inhale really big, but and then exhale. Keep exhaling. And you pause. So and that's the wings of recapitulation.
What did that do to my energy body?
Well, one thing it did was got you breathing, and it got you connecting with the fact that you're a whole sphere. And that sphere has what's behind you as well as what's in front of you.
So you're acknowledging the energy body so it can become, in a sense, more alive and more part of us.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
And then the idea of recapitulation, did we do anything for recapitulation?
Recapitulation is what it's all about, really, on one level. It's
define it.
Recapitulation, you could call it self-review.
Life review.
Life review. It's very specific, and there's different ways to do it. And one of the ways that we're doing it right now is called Theater of Infinity. It's one of the ways that came into the lineage. We'll get to that. So recapitulation is becoming aware of assumptions, but especially patterns that we do.
But isn't it also when I've done it, because I've done it as it's been described in Castaneda's book.
Yes.
Also in the Sergio Magana Toltec tradition. You know him, Sergio Magana?
I got to know about him through when Rennie talked to you.
Yeah, his interviews are
very
great. He does an
interesting.
Obsidian black mirror practice where all your stuff comes up as you see it in the mirror.
Wonderful.
And then you get to recapitulate it.
Beautiful.
So what I've understood about recapitulation, you go back to those key points or major points in your life. I mean, of course, you can do it about everything in your life, everybody. But if you go to the key points, you start to breathe the energy in that you left.
Absolutely.
And you breathe the energy out that was left in you from those
right.
things.
And so you can do what we just did. That's a breath that helps you clear that. Like if you've just reviewed a scene or you're about to review a scene from your life, then you can frame it with these passes. For example, these energy passes, magical passes.
Have you done the complete recapitulation of your life?
It's never done.
But have you done like 12 months of like constant recapitulate or 18 months?
I didn't work that way.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? It's most of us don't have that kind of time. So there was an era described in Castaneda's books, and Taisha had that time. For me, the way my training was, we do it through participation, putting on a tensegrity workshop. There will be a lot of situations that come up, working with your colleague, Rennie and I, collaborating on things. It will bring up where are my patterns? And then I will recapitulate 5 minutes ago. Okay, how did I respond to that situation, and how might I respond better? I will sweep back, I'll breathe back any judgments that I might have left on somebody. And sometimes just the act of setting the intent to breathe back judgments makes you realize you had judgments.
Right.
Because we think we have truth. We think that this person did something wrong.
So we'll recapitulate this
right,
interview
so you pull
as
back,
we do it.
Well, in a sense. And then you exhale if you took anything on, like she said I was, fat or stupid or whatever, or he said that I was.
So you're always you should
exhale it. You don't
every
need to have
second
that
we could
sticking on you.
recapitulate ourselves.
Well, and the recapitulation, in that sense, if I shift my position, like, oh, I'm a little more present. That's part of recapitulation. I'm about to say something that something in me tells me there's a feeling that's not going to go over well. It's not going to be productive. And you may be reviewed before. You take a pause, and you know what? Don't say it. Listen. That's recapitulation.
Right.
Also.
So it's noticing your patterns of behavior.
And making choices in the present moment. So
to not do that, you mean?
Yeah, but that will take you back through the past.
To
and
your
there
history.
Will be, it'll take you back through. If I, for example, get in the body position of yesterday when I was at the store and the salesperson wanted to tell me to buy the product that had a sulfate in it. And I'm so enlightened.
That idiot.
We don't want sulfates. And I'm going to judge. Then I'm going to pause. What am I doing with my body? My solar plexus got tight there. My breath stopped. My feet weren't even connected to the earth. What earth? What are we talking about? And you know what? It was all about protecting the earth, but I'm not connected. And I'm judging somebody. So what kind of environmental wizard am I in that moment?
Right.
But let's not get too heavy. Let's just correct it now.
So,
so I would inhale back.
Well, do the recapitulation breath. Do you mind? Like
not at all.
Because I
so
want to
I'll
really
think
see
of
it.
that moment with her. But this will do it too.
Okay.
But I can also pause. Okay, and I'm pulling back energetic cords. But that happens, I don't have to usher
You're
that.
breathing in.
I'm breathing in what I left behind there that wasn't really helpful.
In that person or in the situation.
And then I'm exhaling. She probably maybe thought that righteous.
The stuff that she left in you.
Yeah, if there is anything.
Yeah.
And you do it a couple times. Then I pause, and I can look at that scene again, and I can think about, okay, what would I do next time? And what I would do is acknowledge her expertise in the area. That would be one option. She really knows about this product that happens to have one item that I don't approve of, but hey, she really has some expertise and she has some pride there. So acknowledge that, and then maybe ask.
Acknowledging the person
rather
instead
than
of taking on their. Because when you judge them, you're taking on the energy. You're leaving that energy.
You know what? when you judge them, you're bonding.
Right.
There's no stickier glue to somebody or to an experience than judging
That's
it.
why our families are they last to be recapitulated. You know,
Well,
because of
our
all that
families,
stuff.
our families are a huge gift in that way,
Yes.
because they teach us a lot. There's no escape. You can't just you can't just judge and then walk off.
But you know,
you
Florinda
have
also,
to work it out.
Florinda also talked about recapitulating at the end of every day. You review
Absolutely.
your day and
Yeah.
say, okay, where did I fall into? Where did I judge? And you just breathe them out and in. And then
And you can also practice. For example, I could practice, and Carol Teagues would say, "Talk to your chair." Just practice. Say it out loud. What do I want to say to this person tomorrow when I see them again? Or just practice. What would I say differently the next time? And play it out. You know, stand up. Okay, I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to say, "Oh, you know, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that with me."
Yeah.
And you know, I'm really concerned about this element. What do you think?
Well, talk
You know?
about the Theater of Infinity, which is what Carol Teagues, you know, the associate of Castaneda, the Nagua woman. Does she still call herself the Nagua woman?
She doesn't,
Oh, well.
because she's like, Nawal refers to that mystery of the energy body, the world that we, you know, the seers talk about the known, the unknown,
And the
and the
unknowable.
knowable. And the Nawal is taking us toward the edge of what can be known. And it goes into that realm of the unknowable. So there's a lot of respect. And the term Nawal would mean somebody who naturally has a natural connection with the energy body, and then who has taken on the shamanistic training. And
You know
the
how I define the
recapitulation.
unknown, the known and the unknowable?
How?
Is the known is what's past, the unknown is future, and the unknowable what's present.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, that's how I
Interesting.
understood that.
Well, there's some elements.
Because it is unknowable, the present.
There's definitely unknowable elements of the
But there's
present.
some-
And there's things that I think we know and things we don't know in the present.
But if you're
and
really
the past.
present, we don't know anything, I think.
I agree with you.
But
But if we're really present, we also know in the past there's stuff that was unknowable in the past, because
Yeah.
a lot of times we want to explain what happened. And we can also, this theater that you're asking about,
yeah,
you can, and this is what we do in our workshops now and our online classes sometimes, is that you get into, okay, I would then go, after I did what I just did with that scene with the woman in the store, then I would practice with a friend, a witness, and I would let them play my part, and I would tell them how to hold my body and my breath and what to say, and I would play the woman in the store.
and what would that do? You
That would give
change
me,
roles.
first of all, empathy,
Ah.
feeling. We go back to the feeling again, right?
Right, for that person. Well, she's just trying to do her job and tell you
And
about
she's
the-
actually doing it quite well. She's taking a lot of pride in it. She just has a different point of view.
But by doing that, what does that do for you?
It gives me another perspective.
And
I
then
get out
what-
of the solidity and the rigidity of me,
Of your
me,
position.
me as the only thing, right? There's there's way more than that.
There's way more than me.
Yeah, we need, this is a vehicle. We're not trying to get rid of being aware of ourselves, but this excessive, Carlos would talk about excessive self-reflection. What about me? It's all about me. That her talking that way is about me. Well, no,
Enough
not
about
really.
me. What do you think of me? You know that joke?
That's it. So it gives you, and the theater started with Magical Past series where you would step into the awareness of a butterfly. You do the butterfly form, or you do the whale, or you practice the wolf. That gives you, for a moment, you get a glimpse of another awareness. It's a shift of the assemblage point of our orientation to reality. And then you can come back, then I can be a little more, I have more context for being in this human interaction. So it gives us context. And so that theater evolved into, okay, we can glimpse other life forms. Why don't we glimpse the perspective of another human?
But you also get into it, I think, in this Theater of the Infinity, which you'll be doing all over the country, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's like you're traveling and doing this.
Yeah.
You get into what do you want in your life, and how do you, isn't there something about
Absolutely,
that? Yeah, talk
absolutely.
about that.
What do you want? What do you feel like your purpose is?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we come back to feeling. It's that intelligent
Yeah.
feeler in us. What do you want to dream? Somebody wants to dream a project, like you're producing a show.
Right.
You want to produce a show with Deepak Chopra, which I saw that you did.
I have done that.
Yeah.
I've already dreamt that. That's
It's pretty
over.
awesome. So going forward, you want to produce a show with
Like Sting.
with Sting. Okay. So then Theater of Infinity, I'm going to look at mapping out the terrain. Okay, what do I want? What does it look like? And you might have images around you. or stones that represent,
Yeah.
you know, this is Sting and then this is me talking to it. You can do those things.
Right.
But you look at what is my intent? What's the purpose of it? Check in, get quiet, and then play out scenarios. And your imagination will tell you as you go about your day thinking about Sting, you might hit something that says, "Oh, that's impossible." You're, you know, what?
But
give me
you
an
play
example.
it out. Oh, no,
what would be an obstacle, for
well,
example?
no, we're not in that because I think.
You
but let me try something that's even bigger than
You play
that.
out the interview with Sting. You could play
right,
it out.
I could play that out, but I
Yeah.
want something bigger than that. I mean, that's great.
Okay.
But, you know, this book that I'm writing, I would like it to be like a #1 bestseller.
Okay. And so what is the intent of the book?
Right.
Who's it going to reach?
Right.
You can connect with those people on an energetic level before you ever meet them.
So
and
I
then you
play
can
out
meet
that
them
role.
also. You can play out the role, you imagine yourself, or you can sit at your desk.
Yeah.
You know, what is a #1 bestseller? How would you play that? Then you could be giving your thank you speech for
So
the
I
award.
act out as if it's already happened.
You can definitely do
my
that.
Pulitzer Prize winning
You can
speech.
do that.
Yeah.
And for me, if you connect with the purpose of it, things align. Your energy body really will come to you
The purpose
with
of
their
why.
purpose of
Not
it.
that I just want to do that.
Yeah,
for
because if
no,
it's all ego,
Yeah,
and
yeah, no. But if I want to do
yeah.
it for a bigger reason, like I want this book to affect people and
now
change
your energy
their,
body is right in there with you, going, "We like
you just
this."
feel that?
I did.
You did. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
So-
that's the reason. It's like
Yeah.
because
And yeah.
I think there's something important that could shift people in this book that I'm writing. And so by aligning my energy body to my purpose, what happens then to the future?
Well, the future starts becoming the present. We're meant to dream. We're meant to have these experiences. We're meant to really
We're meant to dream. I like that. No one, I mean, that's
And-
why we're here.
dreaming, meaning that you can see a possibility. Something comes into you. It might have been your idea, or it might be something you're just receiving. You know, from the sea of awareness that Carlos. This is awareness is an environment, and you pick up on this possibility, and then the difference between picking up on it versus doing it, not versus, but the next part of dreaming would be to carry it out. Okay, what's the next step? And you'll get a flash on something, or you go ask somebody who's done that, and there'll be something that they tell you to do that really resonates, or something they tell you to do that you're like, oh God, that's really hard for.
Yeah.
Then you want to clear out what's the obstacle there.
Uh-huh.
That's where you can play the theater again, recapitulate. You can also recapitulate all the moments where you really did do something that reminds you, here I have this direct channel with the energy body. It reminds your being
But
that
I
I've
could
done
also,
this before.
I could also play out the future, like accepting the award, or seeing,
could.
and like you know, having you're playing the part of, let's say, the committee that's giving me an award for a
Absolutely.
best-selling book, and I have you prepare a little speech, and then you say that. So as I reenact a sort of fantasy future, how does that start to shift me as opposed to just being a fantasy?
Well, it's first of all, you've set the intention.
Uh-huh.
And so now that's what we are. We have this ability to intend endless things.
Endless
And
things.
Really, there's no limit. There is, we're in the
No,
human
there's no
form.
limit to
There
what
is
we
the
can
unknowable.
dream, though.
Yeah, there is the unknowable. So
Which
we
is
have the
always-
humbleness. We have
No,
the
no,
humbleness.
yes.
There's things that are beyond our scope. But there's many, many things that we haven't even tapped.
But
that
the
are not.
unknowable is only unknowable until it is known. I mean, it's,
Don Juan would say different. There is an area humbly we can't touch.
we can, but we can get.
That's beyond us because there's a universe of intelligence out there, and
Right. But we can get
So,
closer and
and
closer to something.
we can
can't
get close. Well, yeah, but there's
mean,
so
I'm
much that's unknown right now. For me to be occupied with the unknowable, let's be busy with the
But
unknown.
everything is unknowable. I mean, in the sense that the universe is
Yeah.
a mystery, and if
It's a mystery, and so let's start learning. Unknown just means something you have never done before. So you practice.
But there's dreams I think we also have yet to dream instead of. I mean, yes, it's
That's
great to
right.
fulfill the dreams we have.
I agree
and
with you
then we can
100%.
make ourselves available to what has been yet to dream.
That's what the whole thing is. If you respond with that openness, and you take this step, and you approach that dream, or you even realize that dream, that opens up many more dreams. And if you get a book that affects many people, think of all those dreams. that open.
Right.
That we're dreamers. We create.
We
like
are all
that.
dreamers.
We create. Ultimately, Carlos would say, there's worlds upon worlds.
Right.
One thing opens to another.
Right. I do these workshops about creating new realities and things like that. So I'm
what it is.
planting the seeds of
Yeah.
perception.
Yeah.
It's all about perception.
Mm-hmm.
Perception creates the reality. So I asked, did Newton discover gravity or did he invent it? What's already here that we have yet to notice that we can then bring into this reality? So much is right here in this space.
That's the wonder of it, because it never ends.
It
never
it's
ends.
Infinite. The
Infinite.
unknown is infinite.
Yeah.
Forget about the unknowable.
Right. We got plenty to do.
Right. Just
Yeah.
being present
Yeah.
in our feeling body. So
Yeah.
you're saying just be present and feel
Present and feel.
and dream.
And dream meaning be open to what the openings are. Sometimes things might look impossible. All right, pause and for me, ask infinity.
Right.
That's
what
the description. Ask infinity, or say to infinity, I'm here. I'm open. I want to see more. Something will flash in your mind. Somebody will call.
That's creativity.
Something
is that?
will open.
Yeah.
It's all about creativity.
Yeah, I think Joseph Campbell says, if you are in that state, there'll be doors where you thought there were only walls.
That's it.
And so, what's the point of it all? Why are you here? Not here, but why are you here in the body? Why are we all here? Why are we dreaming? Why?
Well, for me, there's a few layers to that. The first thing is that we're here to learn. And the way Carlos would describe it actually does link to Theater of Infinity. He would say the Theater of Infinity is a theater that acknowledges that we're playing parts, that we are temporarily in this form. We come from infinity. Mm-hmm. We're going to return to infinity, and we are these bubbles of awareness, if you will, and we're taking a tour of awareness, and we're learning. We're gathering
the
experience, and then it comes back to infinity, and that enhances the awareness of infinity. So beyond that, why? That's the nature of of intent, is that it's enhancing its awareness all through our experience. So as I'm looking at you, infinity's looking at you. As you're looking at me, infinity's looking at me. And
right. And the more we drop away from the personality, the more infinity is coming through us.
Absolutely.
In that way.
Yeah.
The less identified we are with the form, the personality, the persona, then that increases infinity more.
Well, if I'm less occupied with how do I look, I can notice, I can actually, for example, be more present with you, and then I find out something that you've learned that's really interesting, or something that you like. I can notice. There's a flock of birds flying over there. That's really beautiful.
I guess I'm getting at what Don Juan says, that the ultimate journey, or the definitive journey, was to take this awareness with us into the next attention. To I guess enliven the energy body, so it becomes the life body, and you burn from a fire from within. I mean, that's a big dream, but
and ultimately, it's about living with that. Where does my fire light up? And we've recently had some workshops. That's something we're exploring in classes. The fire from within. What is that? For example, when we were out here before we started to talk, you were telling me this beautiful thing about the meaning of alphabet.
Yes.
The container of energy.
Yes.
Alpha, energy, bet, container,
Yes.
and it was very moving to me. And so...
because we're talking about women and men being different, but what...
That lights my fire. That's like awareness. That's awareness. Something gets lit up. Things get connected.
I guess it's silly to ask why.
If you love to play violin, that lights your fire. Why? Because it's there could be lots of different reasons. I really love language, and I was raised to be working with expression of language, and there's this beautiful... Does that come from... Bet is Hebrew, and Alpha is Greek.
No, they're both Hebrew.
They're both Hebrew. So
they
here's this
became
beautiful.
Greek. Yeah.
So here's this beautiful wisdom tradition that has these things that have congealed into words. The words have a lot of power. The problem is if you've tried to just step away and let the words do everything and you're not connected anymore. But hey, you can see from those words, alphabet, we think that's just something we learned in kindergarten. Well, yeah, but alphabet, the container of energy, leads us to the womb, the organ of
and it leads us to perception
life
itself. You know?
Yeah.
Language leads us to perception.
Yeah.
And
So if I'm all caught in the argument I had with the taxi driver, which we didn't have an argument with a taxi driver today, but
I do all the time.
For example, I've had them before in the past, but if I'm all caught up with that, you might not have been able to convey that to me. I would have missed that.
Right. I'm Alan Steinfeld with Nyei Murez and the Magical Passes and Clear Green. You can go find out all about this at the Clear Green website, which is featuring the work of Carlos Castaneda. Thank you for watching. I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. Check me out at newrealities.com. Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is about the evolution of consciousness, and that is why I have my guest here tonight, Nyei Murez. She is a student and a practitioner of magical passes, the Castaneda work. We'll talk about the difference between men and women, because there is an energetic...
There is and there isn't, and that's the beauty of it.
Right.
Because at the level of the energy body, we're all the same, and depending on what your belief system is, you might have had many lifetimes as both, or who knows. Carlos talks about cyclicity, so it's beings that are on parallel lines to us. We can access each other's awareness. So you're accessing, in your family, there's males, females, okay. So, but just energetically, when we're in this human form, the female has a womb. Right. And some people also, if you don't have a womb, you have still the energetic structure, so it's the same. But you have the womb, okay, and for the seers of Don Juan's line, the organs of our body have a primary purpose and a secondary purpose. The primary is to give birth to life. The functionality, the physical function.
And the secondary purpose
is... The secondary purpose is dreaming or perception. So, and if you look at the primary purpose, when a mother is... has a baby growing in there, she's dreaming. The baby, it's still dreaming. Right. But it's not only the mother. There's a father and the family, the tribe, all the people behind them. Yeah. So much goes into that birth of a human.
So the womb is also a vehicle for dreaming.
The womb is a vehicle for dreaming, and the female has the natural connection to that. Right. And I can tell you in my experience, there's a lot of layers to this. I remember Florinda would tell me I would get too much in my head because we're trained as women. Okay, we think the power is the male paradigm that's been there. Okay, womb. So I got to sound really smart because I'll get attention from that. That's power. She'd be like, ask your womb. She'd be, ask your big barriga, your stomach, your womb. That's a different consciousness. That receives. So that's not so much about putting out.
But the intelligence of the womb. Yeah. If you ask that, what does it say?
It can say many things, but it will say, for example, take a pause, let that person finish talking before you interject. Or it will say, take a walk right now.
But men don't have that.
Men don't have the womb, but what they have, it doesn't mean that men don't have that direct access. They just go about it differently.
But women are more intuitive that way.
They are, but here's the challenge for women. They take it for granted.
They ignore it.
They sometimes. Yeah. Not every woman, not all the time. But the tendency is to take it for granted, and Don Juan said that's not innate, that tendency. It's socialized. Right. That women have learned to be indifferent. They've learned to tune out. And appear like if I'm intelligent, I won't get a good mate. If I'm not thin enough, I won't get a good mate, so I'll starve and I can't think and I can't feel. Right. But I'm thin, so I got a good mate. For example, okay? We've been socialized to be a little bit, we're not all embodying that, but that can be a tendency. There are men that are socialized. Okay, it's better to look good than to feel good. Remember, darling, you look marvelous. So we all have all these traits, and what Carol Teagues would talk about is that it's a spectrum.
Uh-huh.
But on the male end of the spectrum, you have a certain stability. The female is cycling, and her awareness is cycling.
Right.
So we will have openings that come right before, what you call the moon time or menstruation. There's an opening. You know things directly, and suddenly you might.
And women have ignored that.
Not all the time.
No, but a
we
lot
wouldn't
of women.
be here if they totally ignored it. We wouldn't have survived
Uh-huh.
as a species. But when it's at secondary level and it's not rational or not something I can explain to somebody next door who's super rational, we might, no, that's just silly. Or like you get something as simple as bring an umbrella. The sun's really bright. I'm not going to bring an umbrella. It's ridiculous. I read the weather forecast, and it's pouring down rain, and after I didn't listen. Men get that as much as women do.
I do get that, yeah.
Yeah, but the male has a steadiness energetically. They have a stability. They do have a dream image or a dream vision that comes in. My experience also just with leading workshops and magical passes and tensegrity practice, the men value it so much. They remember every detail. They follow every directive that they got from it. Somebody will come and tell me a dream, and I think, oh, that's interesting. Did you have that last night? It was like, no, that was 5 years ago. But it was like it was yesterday for the man. And the woman, a lot of times it'll be, oh, yeah, I had 2 of those last week. But what did we do with it?
Yeah.
So what we have is we can come together. The male has that sobriety and the steadiness. The male is what Florinda would describe. They're trying to cone toward knowledge.
Right.
They're building on knowledge. They're building to a point. And so you'll hear in the conversation, get to the point. And the female is ranging. She goes this way.
Right.
So she's ranging.
She's looking for the feeling in the...
Yes. But the female in the male is doing it. We all have the male and female insight. So sometimes I'm going to be like, let's get to the point, right? It's because it's practical. And sometimes it'll be like, can we broaden out the view and look at the bigger picture? So males and females will do both. It's just tendencies.
But just energetically, their energetic bodies are slightly...
They have these tendencies, but you'll see people that are energetically maybe more what we'd call female who are in a male body. You will see the more masculine, and that's beautiful. That's called diversity, and that's how we get creativity. That's tensegrity. We get
what is tensegrity?
Tensegrity it's the modern version of the practices that we're engaged with. So it includes the magical passes, it includes dreaming, it includes silence, it includes a recapitulation. And Don Juan told Carlos, this tradition means being of your time. So we're never going to do it.
Of your time.
Be of your time. Be aware of the time that you're in. And you want to make your practice something that will function in your time. So Carlos, in Don Juan's, in the lineage before, for example, the magical passes were each student had different ones and they didn't share with each other. And it was maybe done in secret. They didn't bring it out. And Carlos and Carol Teagues and Florinda Donner, Taisha Abelard, they saw, you know what, it's time to bring, in our time, we need these physical movements because we're urbanized, we're sitting in chairs, planes, trains. We need to get this
But Don Juan also said this was
out.
The end of a certain time.
It was the end of his lineage.
And it is the end of, but you're part of the lineage.
Well, it's different. It's not, Carlos was what they call the last Nawal.
Yeah.
Because that was a certain function. It operated, they were not in the public, they weren't sharing these teachings and all that.
But Carlos brought it out.
Carlos brought it out because it became very clear to him. It was a choice.
Well, Don Juan told him to. I think he told him to keep writing.
He actually told him to, he had all these notes and he was hoarding his notes. And he's like, he said he had codes in a safe with a elaborate, protection plan. And Don Juan said, that's, you're getting fixated. He said, take your notes, write a book.
Right.
Put it out there. And he wrote a lot of books. So that was the beginning, being of his time. And then at a certain point they saw, well, we need to bring out the movements also.
Well, that was way later.
It was later.
But so But getting back to Don Juan, what do you? I think he disappear. I mean, I think he dissolved with that fire of awareness. I mean, what do you think? I mean, according to the books, like
yeah.
But is that
He and his party of seers, they left in that way.
they left
They
with
left.
their body? I mean,
Yeah,
some people
he-
would
they
call
would
that
say-
ascend.
Yeah, and they would say it was like a plumed serpent, lights on a
Yeah.
serpent. They made this.
But Carlos
Change.
didn't lead that way.
Carlos left a different way because he left alone.
But he also was maybe, this is just my judgment,
Mm-hmm.
had too much self-importance to actually, but
I'll tell you.
tell me.
I hear you.
But that was
I-
just what I get from what other
Carlos
people.
and self-importance didn't seem related
Okay.
to the person that I know. Carlos was anything but self-important. Carlos, if anything, Carlos might have erred on the side of being too giving.
Uh-huh.
And what he said, and he knew that about himself, so that was already factored in. He couldn't stand seeing a being in chains. And he said for him, the more his perception expanded and the energy he had, he would see that humans were in chains of, what about me?
Right.
They did it
So
to
how
me.
did
Mommy
he-
didn't smile at me, smiled at my sister.
So what happened? Well, he died, Castaneda.
He died. He didn't, I wouldn't say that it was an ordinary, random.
Were you there
Death.
with him?
I wasn't physically present when he died in the room. I was connected with him. We all felt it. I definitely felt it. I had a dream. So I saw him in dreaming, very specific dream, which it's beautiful, really, because we were practicing tensegrity movements called not doings at
Right.
the time that he was leaving. And there was a mat. And he left, and there was a mat there, like this open blue mat. It was almost like, now practice. I'm going, but you're connected, and do this practice. So I had that image right at the time.
You felt that.
Well, yeah, it was a very clear dream. I think I was actually a dream. I'm asleep, and so that was, but he also said his see you soon. So there wasn't so much goodbyes. He said that to everybody. He knew that he was leaving. He stretched his time out. Something was coming to take him. When I met him, well, not the first time I met him, but when I started to work with him.
When was that?
In the early 90s, when I met Florinda, and then I met Carlos, and he was pointing to his left toe. And he told me he had just been to Mexico City the week before, and this blue energy was coming onto his toe, and he had to jump in the bathtub because it was going to take him. And he could have just been taken like that.
With the blue energy.
And it would have taken him. It would have been like Don Juan leaves that way. His decision was to stay. He's like, I'm not done yet. Because he really didn't feel like with the books that he had written that it was complete yet. He hadn't provided a clear structure to practice the tools. And that's where tensegrity came in, this term from Buckminster Fuller that has to do with tension and integrity, that we're organized by there's a flexible web that organizes almost any structure that you could look at in the universe, from a cell to the solar system.
So by jumping in
yeah.
the bathtub, he stopped that energy.
He stopped it, and he did that a few more times. He stopped that. He held it off as long as he could.
But then at the end,
At the end, Don Juan told him, you have another option.
What was it?
Which would be, there's different ways to go, and we all, and ultimately it's about how we are here.
Well, isn't it also about how activated your energy body is into going into
trust me,
this?
Carlos is, nobody could keep up with Carlos.
I believe
That's a very activated energy body. He wrote 3 books in the last year of his life.
Yeah, no.
And set up structures and reorganized his whole garden. Set,
I'm
is
sure.
extremely
he was
conscious.
an amazing person.
Extremely conscious to and not about his ego or himself. I never saw him do.
All right, well, that's good to know.
I never saw him do one thing that I would call self-serving. He was, in some way, he would say, "I'm not here.
Wow.
I'm not here anymore," because it wasn't about being out of it. The mass of his energy had already gone into the energetic.
I appreciate you saying that.
He was in the energy body,
Yeah.
and honestly, I know, we would sometimes see him, and it'd be like, was that his energy body or was that his physical body?
What about Florinda and Tasha? What happened to them?
Florinda and Tasha made the decision when Carlos left, and it was a conscious. Don Juan would say, "You can leave.
Right.
You know that it's time to go. Something's pulling you, and you're upright." and you go.
Mm-hmm.
Your intent takes you out there. That's how he did it. And there was, he actually did burn. There might be little residues of things that were left, but he, so.
Castaneda burned.
Yes. But he has a death certificate, and they're,
But
some of this gets outside of this. It's like, how do we
can
translate
go,
this?
No, let's go outside. I don't have to fit into like the normal like.
But
I don't care.
it's how do you
okay
describe it?
weird.
But there were little residues, and that's what they cremate. But the rest of it, he burned. He left.
Oh, so he did burn.
So,
I mean,
as I understand it, there's some burning that he goes, and then there's some residue of the body, like almost like a snake leaves something behind.
Now,
and that left behind part was cremated.
And Tasha and Florinda, who were
Tasha and Florinda made the decision at that time that it's time for them to leave the public eye. It's time for them to leave where they were living and all that and go.
So they're still around, floating around somewhere.
They're around somewhere. They're not directly involved with us. Like I say, I feel them present. But
Did they go back to the house in Mexico, maybe, that was so magical, or?
That is a possibility.
But
my sense is that they would move on into something. They would move forward
into another dimension, sort of.
Well, definitely they're dreaming, and they're traveling. They when they left, they took all sorts of travel gear.
Travel.
With them.
I mean, physical travel gear. So that was like 98. They left then, huh? That was
they left at the same time. Carlos. There's a choice and a decision. Carol Teagues chose to stay and help sort of a second ring of beings who were there. It was like, we haven't quite gelled. What is this practice? And that's what Rennie and I, at that time, it was still our understanding of it definitely is.
And it's
always
still
evolving.
gelling,
It's always evolving.
But it's sort of about what I get from all those Castaneda books. It's about there's so many other dimensions right here with the dreaming. If we shift our reality, we can enter these non-ordinary states without drugs,
Right.
And when we do that, isn't there something about the non-ordinary reality empowering the theater of infinity?
Absolutely, because
you're
taking you're taking the scene with the taxi driver or the business meeting, the ordinary scene, and you might have your habitual reaction, and you think that's your only choice, and you bring in this other awareness from the energy body.
How do you do that?
The dream body. Well, first thing you do is intend it.
Okay.
You call it.
Okay.
So you can even just call it. You say, energy body, I want to be more connected.
Right.
And that's the part of you that's connected to everything.
Is there a pass you can do to sort of
any of these passes, the ones we were doing, that focuses you to be it attracts the energy body. And I talked to you about that, like Carlos would say, if you're kind of out of it, he would make a joke. He'd be like, your energy body's in China. And then you get a little more present. It's coming, it's in Chicago now. This is from the perspective of LA. So if we're in New York, it's in Paris, it's getting closer, and then he would laugh, it's on Westwood Boulevard now, it's coming closer, or, it's on Fifth Avenue, it's almost here. But it's just how present are we, and how much have we acquiesced in some way to let ourselves connect to the bigger thing rather than try to assert the little fish.
But there's so many magical passes, right? There's like hundreds. Why so many? Why not just, if it's just about that, why is there, what do all these other passes do?
Well, they do. There's, you name it.
Like
there's passes for dreaming that help you
what would
get
be
in that
a pass
state.
for dreaming?
A pass for dreaming, really simple. You could do while we're here, or if you stand, this is.
Oh, and you do that before you dream?
You definitely can do before you go to sleep at night, or if you just want to open up your perspective on something, This is the idea that I'm moving the assemblage point. It's here, and I'm actually
getting it to the future.
I'm getting it to lodge out of its fixation. There's passes for silence. There's passes that help you inhabit these other life forms.
Oh, really? Like what other life forms?
The tiger, the butterfly.
You can inhabit those.
The whale. Well, ancient shamanism, shamans would turn into birds, or,
Right.
and you're still hearing stories now. We have a friend that's in the International Federation of the Red Cross. He was in the Philippines, and there was a dog coming in to the compound. Everybody said that's a shaman dog, and they were all like not going to deal with it, and they were trying. So it's still alive in places. For Don Juan in that tradition, that takes an enormous amount of energy to actually become the dog or the butterfly or the crow. So they opted for what they thought was a more wise use of energy. Go into the perception of it. I don't have to shift my body to a butterfly. I can shift my perception, and you practice the butterfly, and things are lighter, and you sense lines of energy more, because that's the butterfly's world.
Yeah.
I can't tell you with any kind of absolute certainty what it is to be a butterfly, because that's the butterfly's realm, but we can take a glimpse.
Yeah, you can move in a semblance
And then,
point there.
back to theater, that brings that broader perspective into the little simple day-to-day actions.
What has all this done for you? I mean, your personal journey, story, life.
What has it done for me? When I started Tensegrity, I was looking for something. I had read the books of Castaneda. I had briefly met Florinda and Carlos, and then I met Florinda again at the Sisterhood bookstore. She told me Carlos has some movements. I said, that's what I'm looking for, because I had been studying poetry, English literature, creative writing, just finished graduate school there, but I was what Carlos called burnt out. It was like you burnt a candle. And
Burnt out how? Mentally?
Mentally, emotionally, energetically. And it was the way I was obviously living, taking experience. I was somehow believed that I was supposed to be amazing, so I tried to, it's just that for me, it's I'm supposed to be the smartest kid in the room or whatever.
That was your energetic.
Yeah, it was really an idea. So you're not, for me, that takes a lot of energy. That's going to consume energy. Yeah. Also, I had a beloved family member. My brother had died a couple of years before, and I was kind of spinning from that. That all sense of orientation was completely shattered
so
from something like that. Yeah, and it's a lot of times you'll hear those stories. That will be when a light comes, an opening.
Right.
And I actually felt, I was in graduate school, and there was nothing was working. I had finished. I was in Boston, and I had finished school, and I was looking to find a job and a place to and nothing would work. And it was sort of, I got involved, I would try to escape through romance. That would be my way to try to check out and deal with the pain of grief of a loss of a family member. Okay, let's get some disastrous romance drama going. So I was just all this soup of stuff, but I'm supposed to be an amazing poet, but I'm too busy with this drama to actually really do that much. So that's the soup, and I feel myself in my little room in an apartment in Cambridge. I feel this buzzing, and I feel my energetic sphere. Now, I did have the terms because I had read then, and it was like a blue, sort of blue-violet, kind of buzzed through my whole being, and seemingly out of nowhere. And then I knew what to do.
Which was?
Go to L.A.
And study with Castaneda.
I didn't know Castaneda was in L.A.
But
I just knew to go to L.A. Oh, I'm not supposed to be here.
Because you felt the feeling.
Well, I had family here, so and I just felt go west. And I met Florinda within a week again. I didn't know she was there. There was in the LA Times, she's going to speak at the Phoenix bookstore. She's speaking at the Phoenix bookstore about the recapitulation. Then the next night.
And now you've been a student for over 20 years or something.
Yeah, started in formal study in 91.
Wow.
So 23 years.
Wow.
And it'll be exact, like it was in the fall.
So what do you want to do? You're a teacher, one of the main teachers, right? And then where's it all going? For everybody.
What's really exciting is that we have we've just opened up a video library where people, you can have a membership
Online?
Online, and we'll keep adding series of movements so people can build this into their day, and it can be a complement to whatever they practice already. If you practice meditation, you practice silence, you practice yoga.
So how many online magical passes will there be?
Right now, there's, like this month, we just put it out right at the equinox. I think there's 7 or 8 series on the first month, and that'll continue.
Things that have already been videotaped, and then you...
No, well, that's what we're doing, is
What's
taping
the
them and
website?
putting it out. It's www.cleargreen.com.
Cleargreen.
Cleargreen.com. You can also find it at Castaneda.com. But we also have about 150 teachers in training. The first group graduated last year in Italy.
But I think what people don't understand, this is not about exercise. This is not about... this is about something else. The magical passes are doing... energetically something to this spot.
They are. It's moving your energy first, but it also, that can be your exercise.
It can be, but it's not about.
But it's not about tightening, your abs or whatever. Although a healthy vehicle is part of what we need to be awake. So it will address, getting the lymph moving. What am I doing with my eyes? Am I tiring out my eyes? But that's also getting in the energetics of things. So we have things that let you release. We're in front of the computer all day. We'll have a pass. You just release and drop down.
Is that a pass? Like holding your eyes?
It's something we do in the warm-ups for things, and you can just, take a pause. So, but that's affecting your energetics too, because that's a huge amount of energy that goes into
your eyes, looking at the world.
The use of the eyes and the computer screen all day.
So one more thing, then, just talk about what the workshops are about. When people go to the workshops, what happens?
So when you go to a workshop, you might have something to do before you get to the workshop, where you start. For example, a workshop we're doing now in New York, and we're going to do in Spain, you would look at the way you'd have something to look at in your day-to-day life, like what kind of roles do I adopt and things like that. And you do a little thinking about that before you come, a little reflection. And then we would do magical passes. You start out really learning a series of magical passes, and then we would get into using that energy that we redeploy or recycle or redistribute with the magical passes to look at our life and become more conscious. If there's something we're dreaming, what's in the way and what's also helping us. And we would probably do some theater of infinity, meaning you get, currently what we're doing, you get together with a group of 3 or 4 other peers in the workshop, 3 or 4 other participants, and each one will write down a scene where maybe you got stuck in a certain persona. Maybe you have a scene where you were stuck in trying to be the good helper, the do-gooder, we call it, and you'd write down that scene. I got really upset because my boss didn't give me praise, and I worked so hard and I'm not appreciated. Okay, so what's my breath? And we can have laughter about it, and it's not making fun. These things can be real challenges for us, but how do we address it? We might play out that scene where we're getting upset, and we notice what's our body position and what's our dialogue, what are we saying to ourselves, what's our mood, what's the sensation. Get really conscious, play it out. Somebody else might play your boss, somebody else might be an observer, or they'll play a colleague that was watching the interaction. And then you would practice some magical passes again, get more present, get the energy flowing. Then you look at the scene again, and you see other things, you see other options. Play the scene again, now with a new intention. And you might play your boss a third time, so and then that way you get new options
and new insights into the situation.
And you're embodying it. If you
you're
embody
also intending the future. You're calling on intent.
You absolutely are. And what's so beautiful about it to me is that if we do it with the whole being, then you're really entering into that assemblage point. It's not just a mental idea. It's much more likely to take place if you've played it out. It might be different. You'll have other options when it actually comes. It's not about trying to necessarily control every aspect of experience either, but it's about really opening up other options and
creating new
inhabiting
possibilities.
them. Yeah, and
instead
that's
of
with
being
the body.
stuck in the things, the patterns that we're used to operating in.
Yeah, and so you were asking, like, well, how did I get here? Something in me knew, I had read the books of Castaneda, and I also knew just being in the head and trying to write from the head, it didn't work.
Well, poetry.
It needs to be embodied. You have to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what poetry.
That's what it
you
is.
were a poet.
And I aspire to poetry. I admire, and I definitely, it's an orientation that I have. It's predilection is another word to describe it. So if I have that predilection, let's be the best. Let's do poetry the best way we can.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is how Castaneda wrote those books, and Florinda's books, and Tasha's books. They capture you because they were doing something else in those books. They were writing from another level.
They would say those are dreamt books.
Yeah.
And Carlos, I and Rennie worked with Carol Teagues on writing some things with Carlos.
Oh, really? Like what thing?
Well, all the announcements that we do on our in our workshops. That's but Carlos's books. Sometimes we would work with him on those books, but you would see the process, he would. Florinda describes it in one of her books, in Being and Dreaming.
Right. There is a whole chunk.
She was working on a thesis.
Right.
And so she does all the research, writes a draft, and then goes into dreaming, and the dream shows her another order. And she has to have the prowess to capture that.
That's what
and
I'm
to be
trying
present.
to do. Yeah.
And the desire and the kind of alertness, and that's what we mean. You don't want to be.
That's what I need to do. Let the dream show me the order of the writing, because it will do. I've had dreams in writing, and yeah.
That's it, and that order might open up other discoveries also.
Yes,
so
that's what I need to do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Although there is, getting back to Castaneda's book, there's a whole part of the art of dreaming that just seems to be missing, like a whole chunk that was taken out.
Well, the thing is, look at how much is there.
No, there's a lot there.
And that book, he actually wrote that manuscript, and then he became aware he couldn't put it out yet because it wasn't time yet. It wouldn't. Yeah. People weren't ready, and Florinda took it and stowed it in the second attention.
I know, and then it came back.
It came back. And it's imbued with a certain, you can feel it, right, when you read it. It's got a different sheen on it because that influence, when he came and looked at it again, that was a dream influence. He would see, and he talked about readers of infinity. He would see things on the wall, literally, and then he would write it down. He'd get it on paper, and then he'd put the paper out while he's sleeping at night on a board.
He would.
And let infinity look at the manuscript and inform him. Let the inorganics look at it. Let infinity look at it.
Oh wait, so he put the what he was writing out.
He would print out the manuscript
and let the infinity look at what he was writing and then give him.
And he would get more impulses, or he's working in the garden and something would come in. He's gardening.
Yeah.
The trees are sentient. They'll tell you things.
Wow.
So, the trees and the animals are really great allies for us because they're not so caught up in the social concerns, and they don't have the same belief in the limitations maybe that we do. So
it's great that you're connected to an amazing lineage like that.
I'm very fortunate.
You chose it. You're not just fortunate.
I chose it when it was
you, right?
It chose me. I chose it when the opportunity came in front of me. I said, Florinda's like, Carlos has some movements. She's at the Sisterhood bookstore, and I said, that's what I'm looking for. I knew it before she even completed the sentence.
And that was 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it continues. You have to keep choosing. Well,
you keep choosing it. You're right in there in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alan.
Murez. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, I'm really grateful to talk with you. I'm grateful. I feel like being in New York is part of the gift of talking to you, that you embody a lot of what, at least to me and to New York is really a great place to learn about how to get along with each other. cities. Sometimes we think that shamanism and infinity is only when we go on retreat out in the woods, and that can help us give a restart if that's an unfamiliar environment. That certainly there's a lot of consciousness, but we can do it right here.
It's happening
where
all
we
the
are.
time, isn't it?
It's everywhere.
Isn't your practice 24 hours?
It is.
So you're aware. You never take some time off.
Well, I have, a persona. I have, assumptions about myself that I'm working on all the time to release. Also, so I can get just as much as anybody else. And one thing,
but it's in your awareness.
It's in my awareness, and I know that there's nothing random that's coming to me. Right. It's all very specific, and it's all directed. It's all an opportunity. It's all messages. You can tell. Oh,
all the time.
If you're going down the wrong path, it's weird. That car is going really slow in front of me. Why? Because I don't need to go that way. You're going this way. There's a police usher escorting you. I'm serious. You can see it. Sometimes it is that obvious, and sometimes we don't see it so clearly. But
sometimes you have to work for some things too. I mean,
that's right. That's absolutely right.
You don't know what it is. Is the path just not the right, or do I really have to put more energy? How do you know?
Well, sometimes you don't.
You just have to
and sometimes it's about being okay with the not knowing, and that if we can not resist the state of not knowing, right, not fight it and use energy in that, then the door will probably open for us.
But if you're getting insights on a path that may be loose, then I feel, for me, that's still feeding me in some ways, even.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're getting insights, can you say more?
Even though things may be going slow, if you're still...
Hey, there's cycles of time. There's cycles. Things go in cycles, right? Carlos talked about, and I think he wrote about it in Active Site of Infinity, this phenomenon called cyclicity.
Yeah.
And he would talk about beings that are connected on a strand of energy, that we can exchange awareness. But cyclicity also means if I have a project, it's going to go through cycles. And sometimes something like that book, Art of Dreaming, it wasn't ripe yet.
Right.
And he got upset really at the time, but then he saw later, it's not quite cooked yet, and it's not ready. There's elements that got to come together that we don't know the whole picture of what they are.
But infinity
and there's
does.
Seasons. Infinity does, and there's also just times for things to ripen and times to let go. There's times to really be active and searching and in the action, and then there's times to hold off and just receive, right? And rest. Our culture is like, we're taught, and this is a city that never sleeps, right? On. But I think we're waking up. You can see there's more of a consensus. We need to also take time.
Right.
To be off in the sense that we're resting, wintertime, going more inside. So project can have its wintertime too, right?
Or cycles and
it's springtime.
And it all comes down to the path with the heart, doesn't it?
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm Alan Steinfeld with
Nyei
Murez and the Magical Passes and Clear Green. You can go find out all about this at the Clear Green website, which is featuring the work of Carlos Castaneda. Thank you for watching. I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. Check me out at newrealities.com.